let's do another upcycle video. So last week, you all blew me away with the amount of comments and support and love you had for my most recent upcycling video. And I thought, why not do it again? I have so many items in this house that are in need of upcycling. So that is what we're going to do this week. Basically, I'm going to shop my own closet and find a few key pieces that I don't go to, that I don't wear, and see if we can do some alterations, add something fun to them to make them a go-to piece in my closet instead of something that I just keep putting to the back and avoiding. The items that we are going to upcycle this week are this Old Navy shirt dress. I thrifted this because, I have a love for stripes and I love a tailored look. But I put it on when I got home and I just don't, it's missing something. It doesn't quite fit as well as I want it to. It's pretty boring. So we're gonna do something to make this wearable. And these next two are kind of a twofer. This is going to be a mashup. I got both of these pieces at the thrift store. You may start to hear a pattern. I shop 99.9% of my wardrobe is from thrift shopping, secondhand shopping, clothing swaps. There's so much clothing out there. There's no reason to go out and shop new. However, thrifting a wardrobe means that we definitely need to do some alterations at times and make things a little bit more wearable, which is why upcycling is so great for those secondhand items. So these two tops right here, the denim one I got recently, and I really love the patch that was on it. I think what I'm gonna do is leave the patch on there, take the striped shirt with the denim and combine them into one piece, and then take the leftovers and make another piece. So I'm still gonna end up with two wearable items. This is my goal. But again, we never know what's going to happen. I also have this denim skirt that I've had for years. I keep clothing around for years with this idea that one day I'll have time to upcycle them. And this skirt, it just doesn't fit. It's actually it's a smaller size. There is some stretch to it. So when I put it on, it kind of fits if you're into that thing. I don't like anything that is tight on my body most of the time. So for me, it just doesn't work right. Also, there's a lot of extra fabric in the belly area where the button fly is. So it's a little ill-fitting. And so we'll see what happens when I dive into that one. And the last item that we may dive into this week, it just really depends on how the weather is. If we go back into winter weather, I'm not going to work on it because it's going to be a tank top. But I've got these really adorable Trader Joe's bags. I bought them probably 6 months ago with the intention of making them into a top for summer because I love cheese. I do. And I think it'll be just a really quick upcycle. I'm just going to do like a boxy tank top, reuse the bag straps as the top straps, and then just add some darts in there. Those are the items that I'm thinking about upcycling this week. I'm going to bring you along for the journey and let's dive right in. Okay, so we're going to start with this piece today. So again, 100% cotton in great condition, just the fit is a little off. So what I'm imagining with this piece right here is actually turning it into a two-piece set. I love a good matching set. Well, we're going to start with this. We're going to crop this off and then we're going to turn the bottom into the skirt first because that's going to be pretty simple. Because it's already an A-line shape, the only concern I have is that there are seamed pockets. So right on the side, there's pockets. I'm going to try to save those if I can. It depends on how high I can get up here, with a seam allowance. I may be able to actually add a different fabric as casing because, I love to match, or I love to clash fabrics. So I was actually thinking of doing a black and white stripe as a contrast to the blue and white stripes. And if that's the case, I could do just another waistband here. That would give us a little bit more fabric, and then we would be able to have the top and the bottom, which I think is a really great idea. I don't wear a lot of skirts, which is why I'm excited for this, because maybe this will be a skirt that I actually do keep in my rotation. Okay, now we have cut our piece in half. This is going to be our skirt. So we need to create a waistband. I don't have enough allowance on the sides to actually just fold it under and create a casing. However, this is something that you may be able to do if you weren't concerned with pockets on the side, and that's the reason I can't fold it under, because let me just show you. I'm a visual person. So the pocket starts about right here. And then here on the inside, the elastic we're using is 1 inch, which means I need to have at least 2 inches minimum, but I need actually probably 2.5 inch so that I can have a little bit to fold under, but I don't even have that much. I barely have an inch here at the top, so I can't just fold that under and create casing myself, but maybe you can if you're working on a project. So you can just take the double, whatever your width of your elastic is, and then add your seam allowance. I use typically 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's just the edge of the presser foot. It's really easy for me to line everything up there. So that is an option for you if you had enough fabric. I'm actually really obsessed with the idea of having this black and white stripe with this blue and white stripe. So I'm going to cut my waistband to go over the widest part of my hips. Same thing with you. If you're working on upcycling something and you want to make a skirt, just make sure that you're taking that hip measurement, because when you pull on the elastic, you just want to make sure your whole piece has enough room to expand, and then it would constrict once it gets over your hips. So definitely keep that in mind. And I just want to share with you, I did not, the first waistband I made, I totally forgot that we were doing elastic. I have been in a different mode these days. So I'm actually going to repurpose this. I'm going to just unpick the stitches there, add the additional length that I need to create that 38.5 inch waistband. All right, so I just needed to try on my waistband and make sure I could get it over my hips. So I was able to do that. I could also take it off over my head if I want to, but that's, again, before you put it on your skirt, make sure that you can get it over your hips. And I did add a little bit more length. I think I did a total of 40 inches. It's okay to have more. Look at these seams. I'm very pleased. Right there. And on this side as well. So you can barely even see where they were attached. And I think those are just going to be the side seams anyway, and they're going to blend in when it's elasticated. It'll be fine. All right, so I have the waistband prepared. I have it pressed under on both sides, and I also have it pressed in the center. And we're going to put it on one side, flip it over, and then we're going to stitch around to seal it in place. We are going to leave a little bit of an opening in the casing so that we can put the elastic through using a safety pin. Now, the skirt though, we need to ease this length, okay, this full circumference into that waistband. And this is an A-line, so it already has a shape at the bottom. So all I'm going to do is gather the top. So to do this, there are a few different methods folks, choose to do. You can just start pinning your waistband around and then create some gathers as you go. That is the, that option can be okay if you don't have a lot of ease you're playing with. For me, so our waistband, as we spread it out now that it is completely sewn, measures 19 times 2. That measures 38 inches is how long this waistband is. So we want the top of our skirt to also be 38 inches. Well, it's not. If I take measurements here, so as we pull this across here to here, we are at 24.5 inches. So that is 49. I think that's 49 inches. So what we need to do is fit 49 inches into the 38 inch waistband. So we just essentially need to take this and we need to shrink it down so that it fits in the waistband and it looks good. So because I have such a difference in the circumference of this skirt and the waistband, what I'm going to do is something called gathering stitches. This is a very easy method. So what I'm going to do is over on the machine, I'm going to put my stitch length to the longest stitch length that I have, and that's 4 millimeters. And I'm not going to back stitch at the beginning or end of the rows. And I'm going to do the first row pretty close to the edge, or like about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go underneath it about another 1/4 of an inch and do another row. I'm gonna leave those tails pretty long, because then you use those as gathering stitches and you can adjust as you go. So you can pull those through. And then that'll give you a much cleaner look, a much more intentional gather than, let's say, just doing it with your fingers. And once I get that done, we'll put on the waistband. Here is our waistband. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open it up and we are going to put those side pieces just like this. We need to get this around. Okay, so we're gonna do this. So now you can see how the inner skirt is going to attach to the waistband. So we are going to, see if I can get that over to the side. I'm just gonna pin that one in place. Stretch it out just a little bit. That edge over here. And then as you go around, you can, again, if you need to move things around just to make it even. And what you don't want is any puckers. Even though we have gathers, we just want it to look, again, even all the way around. Waistband is officially sewn on to the skirt. And one of the things I want to point out, those basting stitches that we used, where is it really noticeable? I know there's one spot. So here, so you can kind of see those white basting stitches I did. So now all we're gonna do is we're gonna take the seam ripper and we're just gonna go around and take them all out. We can just pick a couple and then just yank the thread out. Because it's such a long stitch, we didn't back stitch, it's gonna make it really easy to remove that. And then once I take those basting stitches out, I am going to press the waistband. We're almost ready to add elastic. I just wanna make sure that I didn't miss any fabric as I was stitching. We're getting there. We're making progress. So how I'm gonna connect this together, or how I connected this together, is I put a piece of fabric underneath the elastic. I did a zigzag stitch right down the center to connect those two pieces to the fabric as well as to the two sides. And then I just stitched along each side. So now I'm just going to cut off this extra fabric here. And then the extra fabric here, just again, not cutting, you don't want to cut the elastic. There we go. Okay, so now we're just going to stretch it out all the way. Make sure it's even all the way around. And then we're going to close this off just by going back to the machine and back stitching on this edge, stitching this together and back stitching here. And that is what I'm gonna do for this waistband. Okay, if this was just like an inch longer, this would be fine. I have a little sports bra under here, but I have it with the skirt so you can see together. Oh my gosh, this is so cute, but it's just like, I'm not comfortable having my bra hanging out with my outfit. So now I just need to figure out what I want to do. So these stripes, okay, I think I'm gonna leave the shape of the top the way it is because I actually I like the shape now that I have it as a two-piece. And the stripes on, let's see, the stripes on the waistband are going this way. So I wonder if we clash them. No, let's see. Again, this is how I usually play around with the mirror. Actually, here's a smaller piece. This is going to be a little easier to... So if this were here, all the way around, am I okay with the black and white and the black and white together? I think so. Okay, the birds are chirping and it's beautiful, so I thought I would come out and show you. Oh, I can't get back far enough. Look at the back. It turned out so much better than I thought. So I did end up just serging the end of this because it's black thread on black. It's really not noticeable. It gives me that length that I wanted. So now I have a crop, but it's not, you know, obscene. It's not obscene. Also, we have our pockets. I pressed everything and I can wear them separately, which I also really love. So that is our project for the day. I would say totally a success, and we will pick back up tomorrow. So we're gonna start with the Levi's skirt. And I already have a quilt that I thrifted a while back. It's just a little child's lap quilt. It has some really cute fabric on it. So we are going to cut open the side here, cut open the side here, and then we are going to shorten the skirt. And then I'm just gonna use the seam on the side of the leg as my cutting line. Typically, I would measure it first on myself so that I can make sure that I'm meeting that line. But in this case, we can't go any further because the fabric's already cut off here. So I am going to just make sure everything is nice and flat. So we're just going to line that up there. And then I'm marking it. I would typically use my rotary cutter, but because it's denim, it absolutely can be a little bit harder to cut through. So we'll just use our chalk. And then I do use a specific pair of scissors for thick items. Okay, that leaves us with this piece as well. So this is a great piece to utilize. I'm already seeing how this would make a really cool tank top, right? We could just make a little top right here, add some buttons down the side and a couple of straps. We'll add a couple of darts in here, and this would be a really cute little tank top for summer. So I always save every single one of my scraps for my next inspiration. All right, now we're gonna turn this way to make it a little bit easier so we can cut through those seams. And somehow I deleted all of the video footage besides this short that I did. So I created a template and cut the template out for the quilted sides. And then I went over to the quilt and cut out these 2 triangles. I serged the edges just to make sure that they were nice and clean. And then I just pinned them in place and then sewed them to the side of the item all the way down. And then I did a top stitch just to make sure everything was in place. Lastly, I added some straps and surprise. So this is how it turned out. I actually love this. See, again, happy accidents, or not even an accident, just the progression of the creative process. So I did add, again, I have these little straps here. They're just decorative. They are not necessary. And then the back, I realized they're a little stiff because of the pockets. And when I went downstairs to show my husband my top, he was like, oh, yeah, just take those pockets off and the fabric will be a lot smoother. And I'm like, yeah, brilliant. So anyway, this is what the back looks like. Yeah, definitely I don't like the pockets on here. So all I'm going to do is just seam pick these pockets off and save them for another project. In fact, maybe I'll move them to the front, but it is dinner time. So I'm going to go spend some time with the fam. The puppy just came up to see me. The husband is making some dinner, and we will pick back up tomorrow. Okay, so I just finished mending a pair of pants for my husband, and I also took off some really old nail polish, and now my fingernails look awful, but it doesn't matter. We are ready for another upcycle today. So today our focus is going to be on these two shirts right here. So the goal, truly, what I originally had thought for this denim shirt right here, again, this patch was already on this top. I also love that they've removed the pockets. It may have come this way. I got this at the thrift store, but I do like that it's a little bit different color. My original plan was just going to be to crop it, hem it, and call it a day. Because again, if you haven't noticed, I like a good crop top. But what I think would be fun is to use this top right here. I also thrifted. Now this top, ooh, it feels awful. This is 100% polyester. This is a polyester shirt. It does not breathe. So even though I love the stripes, I wouldn't wear just a button down polyester shirt. Like, it's not going to happen. But what I could do is take the hem, the bottom hem from this, crop this, and add that little stripy design there. And then I thought about swapping out the sleeves, but I'm not quite sure. This might just be a simple one. And you know, with upcycling, you don't have to do everything in the kitchen sink to your item. You can, you know, pull back a little. You can have a little restraint. I have to remind myself of that all the time. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. Crop it, hem it. No, crop it. Take the bottom of this, hem them together, and see what we think about that. And then we'll go from there. Now, I'm going to start by picking out these pockets because I am going to put these pockets on the other shirt. And one little tip when you are seam picking is to pick out the bobbin thread instead of the front thread. It does make life a lot easier. All right, so I added the little pockets here. Now that we have done that, I tried that on, and I do want to add the bottom of the striped shirt to the bottom of here, creating kind of like a tunic. So I love a tunic style. I can wear it over leggings, and it's a cut that I really enjoy. So we're just going to use the existing lines that are already here. So we have these seams here and here, and I'm just going to flatten everything out, making sure it's perfectly even. Let's turn it, give us a little bit more space. I think if we cut to here, that's a good place. Now I also could come up a little bit higher in the front to give it more like a high-low look. I don't know yet, but we're just going to start with this. Just again, I'm just eyeballing it, but I'm just trying to make sure that it is even all the way across and flat. Okay, so now we are ready to cut this one. Now this is super slippery material, but we are going to once again do what we just did. We're just going to make sure that everything is flat. Now these little lines, I don't know if you can actually even see them in the video, but some fabric, when it's stitched through, it doesn't recover very well. And so these little holes are in this little polyester. If you go back through these, so these will, I think if I wash it, those holes should resolve on their own. But this also is going to be near where we are having it join. So we'll be okay. So what I want to do is I just want to get this even up here. Now, I'm always thinking about waist as I'm cutting. So if I were to go lower down, I could reuse this. But as I mentioned before, this is polyester and I don't like this, you know, I don't really want this on my body as much. So for me, I think the most important parts of this top that I'm going to be saving are the sleeves that I can turn into something else. And then this little bit of fabric I certainly will use in some project or another, because, you know, I have a little bit of an obsession with stripes. So now what we're going to do is we are going to stitch this to this. And I may go back through and change out all of the buttons so that they match, or I could do every other button. Haven't quite decided yet how I want to approach that, because I don't think I like that it's, although I guess if you're wearing two different shirts, there would be two different buttons. So we are going to open these both up so that they're flat as they can be. Now I just found the center back, so I just folded it in half, and then a quick little thing, you could put a pin here, you could mark it with chalk. I just take scissors and just do a quick little divot out of there, just not going into the seam allowance. So that is the center of our back. And then we also need to find the center back of this piece that we are adding on. So we're just going to, don't pull too hard because that'll come out. Locate the center back. Should be pretty center. And it's going to be about right there. So let me just do a little. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place our pieces right sides together. And I am going to have to gather or pleat or remove some width because this bottom portion is a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's see. We have, here's our right side. There's this right side. There we go. Right sides together. And then we're just going to start by putting these two here and pin them in place. And then I'm going to continue to do this all the way down here. And again, I may need to remove some bulk or add some pleating detail to this part to get it to match. Look how cheap this shirt is. Ugh. The quality of garments these days. All right, so we have one here in the center. Let's go ahead and put two more just to make sure it doesn't shift, because this polyester is definitely going to be kind of a pain to work with. So that is perfect. Now let's go all the way down here, and I'm going to line up our plackets, because that's very important that we have a really good alignment here. Okay, and then you can see how much ease we're going to have now. So here, this is all the ease that we have. And again, it's really up to you how you manage this. So you could go in, just like I did on the previous project, we could go in, add some gathering stitches, and just pull it together. I may do that by hand. That may be an option. Or, as I mentioned before, I could just go in and just do little mini gathers as I go through, little pleats. That could also work. We just don't want it to look out of place. So I'm focusing all of my gathers. What I'm gonna do, what I just decided is I'm gonna focus all of my gathers in the back. So it has a little bit of flounce back there, and we'll leave the front straight. So I'll just pin these all in place. till we get to the seam here. Okay, so these will all just be as they are. I'll do the same on this side. So here's how we are going to look. We're gonna have, these are gonna stitch together just like this. And then the back is going to have a few gathers, and then that's going to be straight over there. Okay, that's the plan. So now we just need to get these pleats to be even so that it looks intentional. So we already have our center. We are going to go ahead and place the center seams together because we know that those match up. Excellent. And now that actually helps us out because we are only having to gather this little area and this little area. We also you could find dead center of this piece and dead center of this piece. You could pin that here, and then it would break it down even smaller. In fact, I think I'm going to do that because I just need to figure out what I want my canes to be. So that's about center. That's about center. Again, I'm not making this perfect. There we go. But whatever I do to one side, I want to do to the other. So let's see. If we do a pleat, let's do about a 1-inch pleat there. Do I like it going that direction? No, I want it to go towards the back. So I'm just going to use this fork. Turn that there. And yes, I do have a fork in my sewing kit. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing to this one. Okay, so then we are going to go and stitch all of this together. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this out here again today because we have a little bit of sun. We did just get a little snow. It just came, it went, a little precipitation, but this is how it turned out. The last two things I did is I did a top stitch around the edge, and then I did a really good press. I haven't been showing you that, but that is a big piece. After I'm done with everything, I press it down. I really love this one, and the arms were actually the right length, so I just like to roll them up in a cuff when I'm wearing them, and I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't add buttons up here just yet. Again, not sure if I need them because these are more decorative than anything, but pretty pleased with today's upcycle of the day. You gotta let me know what you think. Okay, it's a cold, dark day. We had a little sprinkling of snow yesterday. We have a wind advisory, and it feels like we're still in winter. But we are going to tackle our Trader Joe's bag upcycle today, my friends, because guess what? I need a dose, I need a pop, I need just a little bit of color in my life today, and so we're gonna dive into this project. In my last video, I actually shared with you my favorite tips for getting started with upcycling, and one of those tips is to prepare your material. What that means is make sure that they're laundered, they're clean, they're pressed, that they're ready to go. I have not washed this bag. So issues that I may run into, I'm going to add a lining that has already been pre-washed, pre-shrunk, and so there may be some shifting in how it fits. Also, if there's any color residue on this bag, it may transfer onto the lining, as well as other clothing that I may wash with it. So those are some possibilities of the negatives that can happen with using this without actually taking those proper prep steps. But it's already afternoon and I have a meeting at 3, so I just have a very limited amount of time to work today, and I feel like I just have to dive right in. So I already have a vision for this. In fact, my idea is truly so simple because the shape is already here. So we take the bag, we take the straps, those are going to be our tank top straps, and this is wide enough for me, okay, to go around. Okay, so that's pretty much the bones of where I'm going. Also, a little shortcut we may take today Instead of drafting my own pattern, which is what I typically do, I looked through all of my patterns this morning to see if there was anything that I can use as kind of the base for inspiration. So in this case, I have this pattern right here. So I'm going to use the pattern that's already been provided. Again, save me a little bit of time. And of course, I'm going to adjust it as we go. I may decide that I want to have a tie back. May decide that I want to have a button back. I love adding buttons to tops to give it more of a fitted look. We can also add a zipper if we're feeling a little adventurous, but you know, in the summer, I don't really want a zipper hanging around. I want it to be nice, loose, and airy. Again, I don't want something skin tight, and I'm also not using stretch knit. This is like a, you know, it's a cotton. I feel like this is like a cotton, like a canvas. So another thing that might happen when I wash it is that it would soften up a little bit. Sorry, I thought I just heard more snow coming down. But anyway, that's going to be the plan. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out these pattern pieces, press them, and then figure out our next step. Okay, well, I did a little pivot because I decided to wash the bags. As I was talking about it, I realized it is a really bad habit. It's super lazy, and I didn't want to risk ruining my top after I made it. So right now what I'm doing, I have this sheet, so you can kind of see. So it's just this sheet that I got at the thrift store. It has a few stains here and there. I don't care. I use it as lining. It's actually a blend. It's a poly cotton blend. I think it's half and half, but it is super soft, and it's great against the skin. So I'm going to use this as the lining. Now the cami itself, this pattern that I'm using, does not have a lining in it. It uses facing, which essentially are just pieces that are around the neckline and the armscissors to finish off the garment. I do not like facings. I rarely use them. Almost always will I find a different way to finish a garment. So making a lining is actually super simple. All I'm doing is the two pieces that I'm actually going to be using from this pattern, I'm cutting both of those out in the lining material, and then I'll sew these together just like I would the outer piece. And then when I go to put them together, I'm just going to stitch at the top and then turn it right side out. And that will keep all of our raw edges on the inside. Then we can just do a top stitch and then, finish off the sides. Again, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to put this together. As I mentioned, there may be buttons, there may be ties. It may be a solid piece. We don't know until that canvas comes out of the washer. I won't know until I can actually feel the fabric and see. So this is the lining piece, and the bags are actually in the dryer at the moment. So hopefully they'll be done in probably 10 minutes. So I can create the outer piece and then sew them together. I really think I'm going to be taking up the bottom, but it depends. So once I do the hem, this is where I can adjust things a little bit and kind of roll them up to where I want them to fit. So I ended up taking apart the two pieces. It just made more sense because then I can actually figure out the size for the lining. And then I jumped the gun a little bit by putting the lining fully together. I wanted to do that just to make sure that this pattern would fit. Typically, you would do a toile or, a muslin just to make sure that it is fitting the way you want. So that's kind of what this served as. And I also did really long stitches here on the side so that I can easily pick those out. Okay, so I had my meeting, but I was able to get a few things accomplished. So I took apart the rest of the bag. I should have done that at the beginning. I just, I was thinking that this was going to be a quick project, but I ended up doing everything correctly in the end. So I did end up washing the fabric, pressed it, and then I took out all of the seams. And now we are at the stage where we are going to pin front to back, and we are going to stitch this piece together on the sides, and we will line up this top and stitch around, and we'll push the lining inside. Now, that's not going to finish off the bottom, but I think the bottom, I have to adjust the hem anyway. So that is the plan. All right, y'all, I'm not gonna lie, it was a rough night. So I had mentioned that we had a high wind advisory, like 65 plus mile an hour winds. Well, we lost power at 2 a.m. And the reason that's such a big deal for me is I have to sleep with the fan on. So because of my audio processing issues, if I don't have white noise or, you know, going on in the background, I just can't sleep. I will hear every single noise. And the wind was howling. It was knocking trees over. It was lifting things off of porches and flying them around. So needless to say, I did not get any sleep. But alas, guess what? We got our power back just about an hour ago. It is, oh, I don't know what time it is, because the clocks, I haven't reset the clocks, but I think it's about noon. So we were without power for a good chunk of time, but everything is back now and I can finally finish this top. And then I think I'm just going to take the rest of the day off. I'm not feeling so hot, in addition to not getting any sleep. So let's just dive right in and finish our top. I was very close last night, but I do want to make some alterations, some changes to the design, as I so often do. Well, as far as I got was I put the lining in to the top, and then I started placement of the straps. I did try it on, and you know, it's just a little too big in the top area. So the pattern itself that I used, the finished garment measurements were, I think, 36 in the bust. That is not me. That is not me. I'm a 34. And I thought because it was just going to be like a loose kind of shift summer top, it wouldn't be a big deal, but I don't like the way it fits. So what we're going to do is I think I'm going to turn it into a halter. So we're going to leave the shape in place, and we're going to adjust the strap so that it's a halter. And then there's multiple options we can do. I could always take it in on the side if I wanted to, but the issue comes with this fabric because there is no stretch, none at all. And so the smaller I make it, the harder it's going to be to pull it on over my hips or over my head. So that is not an option to, you know, shrink it down. I mentioned before, when I was thinking about things I could do, I could slice it down the back and add some buttons. We could add grommets and lace it up in the back. That's always a fun way to kind of tighten things up and make them fit. But I also have another way that I did recently that I really like, and let me show you. So this is a top that I actually made recently that I quilted, and this was just self-drafted. So this is kind of the vision that I was going for with the Trader Joe's bag before I got sucked into using the pattern, thinking it would save me time. It would have been easier just to draft my own, but I digress. Also, I wanted to show you that you can use patterns to upcycle. So this was the top. Again, I self-drafted it. And I ran into the same issue because this cotton had no stretch to it. When I put it on, it was just it just had a little too much space, a little too much wiggle room in the bust area. So what I did with this one is I just gathered it at the center, and then I stitched a casing and I added elastic. So, and then this I used that exact same lining that I was showing you. I used the same sheet for the lining of this top right here. So I think that's what we're gonna do. I think we are going to add elastic, but we're gonna keep it the halter style, I think, because I don't have a lot that style. So let's see. So if we put that on halter, the seams fit right at the side. So what I just really wanna do is tighten up the back. And then what we'll do is from seam to seam, so that's a really long distance, but from seam to seam, I'm going to open this up. Okay, so we're gonna open it up here, and then we're going to stitch elastic to this back seam, and I'm gonna measure it out and then stitch that in place. So I could either do a casing, or I could just do a thinner piece of elastic and do a zigzag stitch, and then it'll gather together, which may be the best option for this one because we're doing such a long space. I don't want a really thick piece of elastic in there. It's more of just a way to gather it together. Okay, so now I did the elastic and I'm just doing an edge stitch all the way around to create that faux casing and then also to finish off the front. So all right, so this is the elastic that I used. I already had this on hand. And then again, I just did a zigzag over this. And what I would have done a little bit different. So let me show you how it turned out. This is how I envisioned it. This is exactly what I was thinking as I did this. I would have used less elastic. I used a little too much elastic. So it's a little looser than I'd like in the back, but this may be one of those items that I put up in my Etsy shop because it is, yeah, I say this, I put up in my Etsy shop, which I never do. So now that we've done this and we have our strap in place, I did the edge stitch all the way around just to finish. And the last, very last step is to hem. Okay, it is officially done. Front, we have our bust darts, the elastic, I hemmed it. You know, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I'm really glad that I tried, you know, a new technique. It's not my favorite of the week, but I'm really proud of it. And, you know, it's always fun to have a little whimsical piece in your wardrobe. This will not be a piece that I go to time and time again. It's not a neutral. But it is a super fun piece and I am pretty pleased with the way it turned out. So if you like this type of content, don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know in the comments which upcycle of the week was your favorite. Until next time, everybody, see ya!